Random House Audio presents Come Back America, Turning the Country Around and Restoring Fiscal Responsibility by David M. Walker. This is Bob Walter. Prologue. America is a great country, the greatest as far as Americans are concerned. But its future is threatened, and we same Americans are the threat. I'm talking about our nation's deteriorating financial condition, perpetrated by all of us, and especially by the government that represents us. It is easy to ignore this national decline. Even in these hard times, we see relative prosperity and unparalleled power all around us. But the danger is there even if we fail to acknowledge it. The American way of life will go downhill, steadily and inexorably, unless we do something about our growing fiscal imbalance, and do it soon. I think you already realize that we are in a lot of trouble. After all, you have just picked up a book on the fiscal crisis by a certified public accountant and the government's former top auditor. If you find yourself concerned about how our nation is spending money it doesn't have, and spending it unwisely, then you have the right instinct. You should be worried, and this book might make you even more worried. But it will also show you a way out of the huge hole our elected officials have dug us into. We have run deficits over the course of our history for a variety of reasons, from paying for wars, to fighting the Great Depression, to stimulating the economy in times of recession. But in the past 30 years, America and many Americans have become addicted to debt and to conspicuous consumption. As the baby boom generation gets older and the growth of our workforce slows, we will pay more for Social Security, Medicare, and other programs that already dominate our budget. And we will find it harder and harder to pay for this spending. It's like having a credit card. At first you pay off most or all of the balance. But as you continue to spend, the balance grows, and so does the interest on that balance. Before long, you're struggling just to pay the interest, and you have less money available for everything else. As we've seen all too often over the past few years, this pattern leads to bankruptcy. We live in a great and resilient nation. For all of our problems, the United States remains a global superpower and a beacon of liberty for people around the world. We have much to be proud of and thankful for. But I am here to tell you that if we don't find a way to get spending under control, we will put our nation's economy and international standing at risk and bequeath to our children a world of severely diminished opportunities. But I'm also here to tell you that it's not too late, and that's what inspired me to write this book. I didn't call it Come Back America for nothing. We can make tough choices to restore fiscal sanity and stage a comeback from the recent financial crisis that has knocked us down. More important, we can come back to our basic principles and values, including thrift, personal responsibility, saving, and our stewardship obligation to shape a future for the next generation that is better than our past. It will take a lot of hard work. In the pages that follow, I will tell you how we can take that spending machine off autopilot and redirect it to provide the services our nation needs at a price we can afford. That is going to involve dramatically rethinking our social programs, reforming our tax system and other spending programs, changing the way our government operates, and reforming our political system. And all this will happen only if we, the people, use the power of our democracy to force change from our elected officials. Who am I to be sounding off? I spent 15 years in Washington, working during 4 presidential administrations, Reagan, Bush 41, Clinton, and Bush 43. All my jobs involved working with top elected and appointed officials, while also collaborating with a range of highly educated and dedicated civil servants, and all of them gave me a scary education in how our political system has failed to guard our nation's financial health. I watched the Reagan Revolution from my position as Assistant Secretary of Labor for pension and welfare benefits. President Reagan cut taxes and increased defense spending simultaneously, which added billions to the government's budget deficit. Of course, there's an argument to be made that Reagan's defense buildup gave the Soviet Union a decisive push into oblivion, winning the Cold War without firing a shot. That, in turn, allowed us to cut defense spending, measured as a percentage of the national economy, and to enjoy a peace dividend of growth and creativity throughout our economy. When we came down from that high, induced by peace and lower taxes, however, we saw that the economic growth Reagan stimulated did not make up for the tax revenue we lost. As a consequence, our deficits were growing out of control. I served under Reagan's successor, Bush 41, as one of 2 public trustees for the Social Security and Medicare systems. That job gave me a lot of insight into our money-draining social programs, which I'll share with you later. It also gave me a lifelong respect for our first President Bush, who had the courage to break a campaign promise, read my lips, no new taxes, when he saw our deficits rising to the danger level. That decision probably cost him re-election, but it was the right decision for America. He also imposed tough budget controls to constrain spending and the expansion of government. Let me also tip my hat to Ross Perot, the Texas businessman who ran for president in 1992 and 1996. Perot was the only national candidate in my memory who faced the American people with charts and graphs to pound home the point that the politicians in Washington were driving America into bankruptcy with their loose spending ways. He made fighting the deficit sexy, at least for a while. He also showed that you don't have to win to make a big difference. Perot made it extremely hard for the man who defeated him, Bill Clinton, to be anything less than fiscally responsible. I give President Clinton and his Treasury Secretary, Bob Rubin, a lot of credit. They pushed through continuation of the statutory budget controls first put in place by Bush 41. Statutory means that, by law, Congress could not create new spending programs, among other things, without ensuring that they were adequately funded. Clinton set a good example for fiscal responsibility during his administration. He did not cut taxes, even though he had promised to do so for the middle class. He did not expand entitlement programs or move to increase social spending. In fact, he saved money through his welfare reforms. Clinton was also very lucky. He was blessed with a strong economy powered by the high-tech boom. His tax and spending discipline, combined with high growth, boosted federal revenues to their highest level as a percentage of the economy in history. In 2000, as he prepared to turn over the White House to Bush 43, the U.S. government reported its first true budget surplus in more than 30 years. My higher education in these issues began in 1998, when Clinton nominated me to serve a 15-year term as the 7th Comptroller General of the United States and CEO of what was then called the General Accounting Office. That agency was responsible for auditing the federal government's consolidated financial statements and for making sure Washington was accountable to the people who pay the bills. 6 years into my term, we pushed through an act of Congress signed by President Bush that, among other things, changed the agency's name to the Government Accountability Office, or GAO. I applied for the job because I wanted to maximize my ability to make a difference for my fellow citizens. Certainly not to maximize my net worth, since it required me to take a pay cut of more than 80%. I couldn't have asked for a better time than the late 1990s to take this watchdog role. But the flush times, of course, didn't last. After all the work it took to bring the deficit to zero, Washington seemed directionless. What do you do with a budget?
Sample complete. Ready to continue?